Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Shaquavia, aka Church Girl Next Door. If you're new here, if you're not new here, I am still Shaquavia, aka Church Girl Next Door, and I am very excited to have you. So I'm excited for today's video. I'm excited, nervous for today's video. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I am a 27-year-old who is still pursuing her bachelor's degree. And we're gonna talk about that today. I think I'm going to start it off by first, laying a foundation, giving you my background, telling my story about how I ended up where I am today. And then at the end, I'll be answering some Q&A about pursuing your bachelor's degree later in life. That feels so weird to say, just later than is normally expected. That's what we're doing today. So yeah, let's just get right into today's video. So I graduated in 2011.
I'm married for 72 days. Really, that was normal.
Very old tiara made in 1936, French chantilly lace.
The phenomenon, the woman who is Oprah Winfrey. After 25 years, she ended her daytime talk show.
I remember before graduating feeling like every one of the members in my graduating class had a plan.
I fly to the moon. I shrink the moon. I grab the moon.
And I remember feeling like, I don't have that. I had a plan. I was planning on going to the University of South Florida, but they knew where they were going. They applied to their dream school. They got into their dream school. They were planning the sororities and the fraternities that they would join. They were going with their high school sweetheart, whom most of them were planning on married and have married since then. They just seemed to have it all together. The only thing I knew was that I was going to college. Period. And I was going to study journalism, but I didn't really know that for a fact because I knew that I wasn't passionate about journalism. I didn't think that I was passionate enough about it to pursue spending money on a degree for it. So that's as far as my plan went. I knew where I was going to school, but when I compared myself to everyone around me, it was like,
I don't know what I'm doing.
Then spring of my first year came and I went home for a weekend or maybe for spring break. I'm not the details of that are fuzzy, but I know I went home to visit my best friend because we hadn't been able to spend a lot of time together, or college is busy. So I went home to visit her and to visit my other hometown friends because I still had a bunch of friends back home. I was going to school in Tampa, but she was still going to school in Orlando, where we're from. And so I went home to visit her. We went to a bar one night close to her campus and and I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but I will just say this for all of my ladies and young ladies watching this: trust your gut. Absolutely trust your gut. I'm filming this when the sun is setting, so the lighting is going to change. I'm going to set up my ring light. And after that happened, I went back to school, went back to Tampa to finish out the semester, but then I decided that I was going to, instead of take a whole break from school, I was going to transfer back to the community college back home that turned into a 4-year school, but it was still less populated. Just take a reprieve, but I was still gonna do school. So I finished out the semester in Tampa and then I transferred back home to start the next fall semester at the 4-year college, but not the university. And I got a job at Chipotle, and the 2012-2013 school year, it went great.
Incredible, amazing.
Summer 2013 came and I got kind of caught up with the wrong crowd. Partying became life, not gonna lie. And I just thought it was a summer of fun. And when fall came, I was gonna crack down and get serious about my studies, except
That didn't really happen.
and then by spring of 2014, I was basically just going to school on paper. So needless to say, my GPA was trash. But I still tried to transfer to the university after the college because between them, they had this relationship called Direct Connect, to where if you did 2 years at the community college, then you were guaranteed admission into the university.
I was rejected.
Because again, my GPA was trash.
Bro, you're trash, bro.
And that was early spring 2014. And then in late April of 2014, I got saved. And it honestly happened so fast. It was very much a whirlwind. It was very much like a whirlwind, and that's like another story time in and of itself probably. But I got saved in late spring of 2014, and then in the summer of 2015, I tried to apply again to the university. I don't know why, because I just felt a call to school, and this was like the only next step that I knew to take. So I applied again, I got rejected again. After that, like, even though I felt the call and the push to go to school, that second rejection just kind of made me feel like,
psych, that's the wrong number.
School isn't for me. Like, college isn't my jam. Fast forward to 2016, March 2016, and I moved to Atlanta, Georgia.
Welcome to Atlanta where the players play.
And I'm not even here for like 2 weeks, and I feel the urge to go back to school again. And I'm like, because my GPA is trash. I've already been rejected twice. Why would I try this here in a different state that I'm not even legally a resident in yet? I literally just moved here. Why is the only question I had. But I still started researching schools and stuff. So I started looking into Clark Atlanta. That was the first school that I started to look into, because at this time I'm still a journalism major, and I heard that they had a great mass communications program. So I started researching them, but I'm still dragging my feet. And I'm dragging my feet for 2 reasons. One, because I don't want a degree in journalism. I don't want to pay for a degree in journalism, and that is what I'm doing. I'm paying for a degree. And 2, I'm essentially homeless. Like, I have no permanent address in Georgia, and out-of-state tuition is bonkers expensive. In this time of research and me dragging my feet, people around me, like my coworkers, I remember I worked at the Center for Civil and Human Rights. Amazing place to visit if you come to Atlanta. I remember working there, and we would have to give tours. Classes would come in for field trips, and we would have to give them tours of the museum. And all of my coworkers, literally after every tour I gave, and I gave about 2 or 3 tours a day, they would be like, you would be a great teacher. You should be a teacher. And I'm like, no thanks. Literally, like, thank you for seeing something in me, but
That's not what I want to see in myself right now.
so no thanks. And literally, like, I was homeless. I was hopping from place to place, room to room. At one point, I was literally living out of my car. No one knew. I was like still showing up to meetings, still showing up to work, still living life as if everything was a-okay, and I was literally like living out of my car. Weird time. That brings us to like fall, winter of 2017. I met my mentor, and I'd known of her, but like we started developing a relationship around this time. And I remember one night, sat me down on the couch in her office after we had like gone to the world of coke, and she looks at me and she goes, "Are you depressed? What are you doing with your life?" She asked me those 2 questions, and I think I just start crying. In my head, I'm like,
I don't know what I'm doing with my life.
but I'm trying to figure it out, and I am trying to do something, but nothing is working out. I don't think I said that. I think that was just in my head. And I actually think that I denied being depressed because in my mind, a Christian couldn't be depressed at that time. I thought because I was saved and I had the Holy Ghost now, like, depression can't come near me. I can't be depressed, and all this other crazy stuff. 2 weeks later, maybe a week later, the Holy Ghost gently revealed to me, he's like, "No sis, you are in fact depressed, and it's okay. Let's work through this." So yeah, that was late fall, winter 2017. So that same night, like in her office, she started encouraging me to go back to school. I absolutely fought back because A, she's a college professor, and I was like, you have an agenda here. Like, you just think everyone should go to college. I was like, I don't know. And also because it was like, the only thing I know is journalism, but the only other thing I know is that I don't want to be a journalist. And so I don't know where to go from here, sis. And then a week later or something, it popped into my head that I could try fashion because I'm really passionate about fashion and clothes. She went with me to tour the Savannah College of Art and Design in Atlanta, SCAD. And then I applied, I got in. I got in. I got a scholarship as well. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is great. But then I just start lacking peace about it. I was super excited, but I also just start lacking peace of mind and peace of heart. So I deferred my acceptance, and they do like quarterly acceptance. So I deferred my acceptance by a quarter. And then when time came around to look at it again, I just neglected it altogether because my peace was just not there.
I don't feel so good.
This is now summer of 2018. I am kind of back to square one, honestly. And so I'm praying, I'm asking God, like, what should I do? I remember laying in bed. I was living with one of my good friends in her 1-bedroom apartment. I made her living room my room, and I was laying on her air mattress, and I remember laying there praying, asking God, like, what do I do? What should I study? What's going on? And he just so softly said, why don't you become a teacher? And immediately I felt peace. Like what Oprah calls her aha moment, that's what it felt like. I was like, duh. And then I felt foolish because I felt like he'd been telling me this whole time through other people, and I just wasn't listening. I was too prideful or whatever, but I was listening now.
Hi guys, so da-da-da-da. Yes, I did that. And you would do it too for a check. I was an employee, and I was gonna get employee of the month, and that's on period.
I was in a place of like, by winter of 2018, and I'm still a little shaky because it's like, I still don't have a permanent address. Like I would still be having to pay out-of-state tuition. And before I heard, why don't you become a teacher? I had heard that Georgia State, I don't even know how, but I heard that Georgia State had a phenomenal education program. And that just always stuck with me. And then it was like, why don't you become a teacher? And so I knew immediately that I was going to be going to GSU. So winter of 2018, even though I was like worried because it was like, I still don't have a permanent address in Atlanta, I'm just going to let the chips fall where they may. I'm going to apply to Georgia State and just trust God to take care of all of the financials and like all of that other, the address and everything else later. But I am going to kind of work my faith and apply. So I did. And then February of 2019, I got my acceptance letter. Super, super excited. And then fall of 2019, that was my first year at Georgia State University. So that brings me to where I am today. 27 years old, still pursuing my 4-year degree after like 5 years in school. It's been a journey. It's been a real journey. And honestly, it's kind of hard sometimes because everyone doesn't understand the journey. Some people may look at you and they might be like, you're a failure because you haven't graduated college by the age of 21. But I'm so grateful for my journey. Even with all of the bad, I wouldn't change a thing. So now we're going to answer some questions about gap year and pursuing your degree later in life. So the first question, biggest challenge so far? I think the biggest challenge so far, after you get over kind of the challenge of caring about people's perception, finding people, especially for me, as someone who's 27 and as someone who identifies themselves as a Christian, like finding that peer group support has been a challenge. People who are also older than 18 to 21 pursuing their degree, people who also identify themselves as a Christian and have the same lifestyle as me, and like making friends like that way, that's kind of been a challenge. Like friends that I go to school with. Do you feel more mature than your 7 to 18-year-old peers? Yes. And I never thought that I would say that. Like, it's weird because I still feel 17 to 18, 19, like I still feel like a teenager. But they talk sometimes and I'm like, what? And that's no tea, no shade, like they're young. But it makes me realize how old I am. How did you adjust? Was it hard? It's definitely hard, so hard. And I'm still adjusting, to be honest. It's hard because I'm old, like older than everyone in my class, but it's also hard because I'm autistic and I have a slight anxiety disorder. And so it's just like all of those things combined, it makes it a little bit harder. And then living alone during this quarantine has made it harder for everyone, but I can only speak for myself. Living alone during this time, I didn't realize how it was affecting me, but it's affecting me. It's hard, but it's worth it. Any advice on fitting in when you're older than most people in your classes? Be yourself. Don't try to fit in, honestly. And people will appreciate you for being yourself. Like, even if you don't have the same views or the same lifestyle, they will appreciate you and they will respect you. And it'll make them feel more comfortable around you because they know that you're not like putting up a front. And even if you don't have the same values, like I said, or lifestyle, they will still feel comfortable and safe with you. And if you can establish that foundation with any relationship of like safety and trust and comfortability, you're good. Next question. Did the admissions department question you about your gap years? Yes, I had to write an entire letter about my gap years and about my like homelessness situation. It was a mess. I had to write it twice actually because they messed up my financial aid twice because they wanted to know like,
what were you doing? Where have you been? What's going on?
Next question. Did you regret taking a gap year? At first, yes. Now, no. And I think when I first decided to take it, I knew in my heart of hearts that I would regret it if I didn't take it. Last question. Do you ever feel behind everyone else your age? Yes. Everyone else my age, especially when I talked about my classmates from high school, they're literally all
Getting married and having babies.
I'm here still pursuing my 4-year degree. So when I think about it, it's like I feel behind, but then at the same time, like deep in my soul, I feel a peace knowing that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm gonna end this video and say this. As a student of any kind, but especially like a gap year student or someone pursuing their degree later in life, intrinsic motivation should be your main driver. Purpose, obviously, but you also you need a support system. You need people you can go and just like forget about school for a minute and just like let your hair down and have fun so you can come back to your schoolwork and like remember your why and get back to business. So your support system reminds you of your why and they refresh you, and then you can come back to your schoolwork and to your books and to the stresses of student life and conquer this thing. I also want to say this. I'm not saying that college is for everyone. I understand that college just won't work for some people, but I also understand that sometimes college doesn't work at the same time for everyone. I do understand though that college really isn't for everyone, but I think you should ask yourself the hard question, like, is it not for me at all? Or is it not right for me at this time in my life? Sometimes college doesn't work at the same time as it's working for other people your age, and that's okay. That's the point that I'm making. Lastly, gap years are kind of taboo, but I hope this video helped even one person kind of answer some questions that they might have had about gap year, inspired you in some way, encouraged you in some way. I'm so grateful for my journey, and like with the help of the Lord, I was able to trust the process. And honestly, I wouldn't change a thing because I wouldn't be the woman I am today. As imperfect as I am, even still, I have grown a lot, and I really like, as Drake said.
I think I like who I'm becoming.
So with that being said, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope this answered any questions you might have or soothed any fears. If you have any other questions or you just want to talk about, you know, going back to school or gap years or anything else really, you can always DM me on Instagram. I love talking to you guys. Honestly, our conversations are lit. And if you haven't already, subscribe because we're going places together and I'm excited about it. All right, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. Mwah.